Coming up on Unpeeled, Selena Gomez opens up about her mental health struggles.
AMC Theaters reveals how the pandemic has impacted them.
And we update you on the latest ways celebrities are contributing to COVID-19 relief efforts.
All that and more coming up on the Unpeeled podcast. Well, welcome back to the Unpeeled podcast. The pandemic won't stop us from getting out our entertainment content. I'm your host, Chris Sacchi.
And I'm your host, Meagan Reynolds. So today we're starting in the Twitter world where CEO Jack Dorsey has pledged $1 billion, and that is billion with a B, to COVID-19 relief efforts. And this is about 25% of his net worth.
Dorsey's pledge comes days after Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos donated $100 million to America's food banks. His first donation is a $100,000 donation to America's Food Fund. So, Meagan, where else could Dorsey announce his pledge than, well, his own Twitter page? He said he's donating $1 billion of his Square equity. That was a money-moving company that he has, frankly, more money and more stake in. So he's taken that stake and using $100 billion of that, which is about 28% of his wealth, to start a small LLC to fund relief for this pandemic.
And, this is obviously crazy. A lot of celebrities are stepping up to help in the fight of COVID. But he ended his Twitter thread by saying, quote, "The needs are increasingly urgent, and I want to see the impact in my lifetime. I hope this inspires others to do something similar. Life is too short, so let's do everything we can today to help people now." I think that was very poetic for the Twitter CEO. If I would say so myself. But Sacchi, what do you think about all this, and his generosity in donating, and especially because, the Amazon CEO, Jeff Bezos, I know he got a lot of backlash for his donation because some are saying it's not enough. So what do you think about all of this?
Yeah, you made a good point. Like Bezos, he donates $100 million, which for anyone mostly is a ton of money, but a lot of people on Twitter are saying, well, that's only, 0.01 of his net wealth or whatever. Well, Dorsey said, this is 25%. He said 28% of my wealth. So he kind of acknowledged the criticism, and he is truly giving a lot of money. Some of these really rich people in the grand scheme of things don't give a ton, but this is inspiring for him because he has the people's urgent needs in his mind. And like I said, this is a ton of money coming from him. So we go from Twitter to a streaming service, and it feels like we're always doing something about streaming here on Unpeeled. And this past Monday, a new streaming service called Quibi officially launched just in time during this tough time for everyone. And Quibi was founded by DreamWorks CEO and founder Jeffrey Katzenberg.
Quibi is designed to be watched on your phone and is meant to provide entertainment on the go. All the shows are about 10 minutes in length, and the app is compatible with both Apple and Android products. So, Sacchi, this is a really interesting app. Obviously we all have social media on our phones, but what's different about Quibi is obviously it's designed to be on the go with these short episodes, and celebrities such as Joe Jonas, Chris Meagan, and Liam Hemsworth have all already done shows with Quibi.
Yeah, it's interesting that it is for the go because as of right now, almost nobody is on the go. No one's really leaving their houses, but I think this will come in great handy once everyone is back and doing things, and say, it's a summer day and you're out on the beach. Well, it's the easiest app, they say, to just go in and watch something. Like you said, there's certain celebrities who are doing shows just with Quibi. Now, social media wasn't very warm to it. I don't know if it's the name. I don't know if it's because it's just another streaming service when this year it seems like that's all we've talked about. But there hasn't been such a warm welcome. But I think once we get back in motion, this can be a huge app for people who want content.
Exactly. And however, even though social media didn't give it a warm welcome, the first day the app was available in the App Store, it got over 300,000 downloads. And obviously the show that's gotten the most buzz is starring Jennifer Lopez. And that doesn't surprise me at all. But, This will be interesting, especially because the app is being released at a time when it's not going to be utilized to its actual purpose. But as of now, the app is currently free for 90 days until the end of April. And after that, it's going to cost you $4.99 a month with ads or $7.99 a month without ads. So, Sacchi, you think this is something you're going to download?
Me personally, no. I think it will do well. I'm not just a big movie TV watcher in general. And the interesting thing is, Meagan, is that sometimes what people like to do is they like to share accounts to, circumvent having to pay money. You can't do that with Quibi. It's only single viewer. You can't share the account. So that might change the game a little bit. It will either add more or less. So we'll have to see. Another streaming service enters the game. And with so many of them happening, Megan, some of them are going to have to lose out. All of them won't do well. It's just not humanly possible. There aren't enough people, not enough content. But we'll see how this goes.
And from streaming to network television, it's been announced that Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, and Jimmy Fallon are set to host a special benefiting COVID-19 relief efforts. One World Together at Home is set to air on April 18th from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time on multiple networks, including NBC, ABC, and CBS. It'll also be available to watch on MTV and BET in more than 180 countries.
Yeah, and along with those hosts you mentioned, Megan, Lady Gaga has been tasked with creating a star-studded music lineup with performances from the likes of Billie Eilish, Paul McCartney, John Legend, Casey Musgraves, Keith Urban, Lizzo, Stevie Wonder. I mean, the list goes on and on. The special will also include interviews with members of the World Health Organization, healthcare workers, real-life healthcare workers who are working on the front lines with patients, and also cameos from star athletes and other key figures who will serve to further educate viewers. So we've seen on Twitter certain music personalities get together and make songs, but this is a bigger deal than anything we've seen in terms of celebrities getting together. And like I said, the money raised from this program will go to relief. So this will probably truly make an impact than anything else we've seen.
Exactly. And obviously this is another great example of celebrities stepping up and doing their part. They're devoting their time and efforts to this pandemic. We've seen so many others doing concerts as well. And, I think this is exactly what people need right now, especially the healthcare workers. They need these funds, they need these fundraisers. But it's also great to see these networks collaborating together. I mean, these are competing networks that are always going head to head, especially in the ratings. And so the fact that they're all banding together for this is, I think, great to see. And that kind of gives me hope that the entertainment world really is going to bounce back from this whole epidemic.
Yeah, and this collaboration, even from the hosts to our competitors in a way, and all these artists and, like you said, the big networks who've been around for years, all coming together is a good example that during this pandemic and this unprecedented time, it brings about closeness in people that we haven't seen in a long time. And just a little side note, this special will be executive produced by the voice producer, Audrey Morisi, and her production company, Live Animals. So it has legit backing behind it, both from the networks and producers and an all-star music cast. This will be a blast to watch. The money, of course, will be raised. Once again, April 18th from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time on multiple networks.
Yeah, so coming up, we've got how a primetime TV series is going to be going digital.
And Selena Gomez opens up to the public about her battle with bipolar disorder next on the Unpeeled podcast.
Come on, it's not that hard.
My big man fingers are having a problem with these little tiny buttons.
Whoa, watch it there. Your blood pressure's gonna go through the roof.
Tell me about it. I'm trying to learn how to get it down. Instead, it keeps going up.
High blood pressure can increase the risk for heart attack or stroke. Learn how to keep yours at a healthy range.
Ever hear a voice command? Just say text barbershop to 97779.
That's not what I said.
Just give me that. Now my blood pressure's up.
Welcome back, Unpeelers. So today, Patrick Gunn is here with us to talk to us about how CBS's drama All Rise is now the first primetime scripted series to have a virtual production. All the cast and crew members are going to be working remotely, and they're really doing something amazing with this. So Patrick, why don't you break us down all the details and give us a little inside scoop on what's happening here?
Sure, Megan. So you've heard of Zoom University, and now we've got Zoom Film Production or Zoom Film School or whatever you'd like to call it. So basically, this entire show is going to be filmed using several different devices or processes like Zoom, FaceTime, Google Hangout, et cetera. That's what the casts are going to be using to film themselves and their characters. Virtual footage will be shot in each of the stars' main home, just showing them moving around, and they'll be used VFX to create some background, so it's not just people's houses. And there will be also a lone cinematographer maintaining social distancing to get exterior footage showcasing the lonesome environment in Los Angeles and the episode. is set to be finished by May 4th, with another episode coming out this weekend, not related. That was shot and edited before the coronavirus pandemic this weekend.
So what's this episode going to be about? Obviously, it will be filmed differently. It will have different, as we know with this Unpeeled content, this podcast, everything is a little different. And how do you think that will change the episode and its content?
Chris, the entire coronavirus pandemic is going to be at the forefront of this episode. That's pretty much the entire point of the episode. The main judge character is going to allow Judge Lola to preside over a virtual court case. So they're going to be all the court cases going to be conducted via Zoom. And it's going to be also about other characters, how they're coping with the virus. One person is getting a job as a food delivery driver. Another couple in the show is going to try and continuing their relationship from afar via Zoom, more Zoom and Google Hangout and FaceTime. So it's pretty much going to be just mixing old plot lines from the show and old threads together, how it's affecting the characters into the current climate. So I think it's a pretty interesting idea, especially with the kind of a courtroom drama, how that's going to be handled with everything going on.
Yeah, wow, that sounds really interesting. I'm definitely curious to see how this will look production wise and, how audiences react to it, because obviously this show is now going to be portraying the new sense of normalcy. This is our new reality for a little bit. So the fact that a show is now adapting to that and really going to be showcasing that is going to be quite interesting to see, especially because it's not going to be acting. They're literally doing it themselves. So
they're going to be doing it in character. So there's a little bit of acting.
Well, of course, there's always acting, but the fact that they're recording this through the same tools that everyone else is using, how we're recording even this podcast now, it's quite insane. But
True.
Do you think other shows are going to hop on and, kind of ride their coattails and continue this type of production? Or do you think they'll maybe wait and see how audiences react to even this episode?
That's an interesting question, Megan. And I think it wouldn't surprise me if we see more shows try this. It's kind of it kind of depends on the show. Like
Mm-hmm.
Killing Eve. Killing Eve comes back on Sunday night. That show would be pretty tough to do over Zoom, Google Hangout, because it's about characters traveling around in different places, and its main character is an assassin. So it's kind of hard to do that kind of show via Zoom. However, other shows that maybe like All Rise, that you can have characters be acting remotely, maybe are more plausible. SNL just announced that they're going to be having their first show coming up pretty soon. So maybe we'll see more of that, seeing how this SNL show goes. Obviously, could be a different format entirely as well. But I think it's an interesting idea, and I think creatively it's something that could be an interesting sort of time peg to the situation. And it wouldn't surprise me if other shows that feel like that they can successfully do production or a Zoom-based show wouldn't be as opposed to trying it.
Yeah, it's also interesting. I feel like maybe I could see reality shows kind of hopping on this bandwagon, just because what's more reality than seeing how they're living their quarantine lives? But
Love is Blind without cameras.
Love is Blind with only your audio on. That would be quite hilarious. But yeah, this is going to be interesting. I'm really excited to see how this turns out. So Patrick, thank you so much for joining us today. And, I hope you are staying safe and healthy. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about Selena Gomez with reporter Mia McGregor. So don't go anywhere.
Well, we go from a Zoom television series to the celebrity world. Selena Gomez opens up about her bipolar disorder on Miley Cyrus's new Instagram live show, Bright Minded. And we have our celebrity reporter, Mia McGregor, here on the Unpeeled podcast to break it all down. Mia, thanks for joining us virtually. And what can you give us about Selena?
Thanks so much for having me. So this has been pretty crazy. Selena's actually talked a lot about her struggle with depression and anxiety, but she's never talked about her bipolar disorder openly before. But she did mention in her interview with Miley, this is a big part of this is because she grew up in Texas and never felt as though it was a really acceptable environment for her to openly discuss certain aspects of her mental health, even with her family. But once she left Texas, she realized how much she was struggling and wanted to speak out about her mental health to inform others.
Yeah. So Mia, what were some of the major things Selena talked about on her show? Mental health is obviously such a big topic right now, and celebrities are always sharing their stories, especially to connect with their fans and kind of make them realize they're not alone. So what kind of has Selena dealt with in terms of her bipolar disorder, since everyone's experience is so incredibly different?
So she began by talking a lot about her personal experiences with her bipolar disorder and how she decided to go and seek treatment, and that really helped her manage her mental health and other aspects of mental health. Like I mentioned before, she had struggled with depression before as well. But she also placed a really big emphasis on the importance of taking care of your mental health. Like she was speaking out to her fans and how during the pandemic, it's very important to be supportive of others who may be struggling, and it's very important to be checking in on your friends and family, because this is a very difficult time and can trigger a lot of problems with people in mental health. Just being home isolated alone, not seeing people, not going out, and then just the anxiety and fear and uncertainty of not knowing what's going to happen.
So you mentioned it already, but this is a great time I guess this was the ideal time, because like you said, a lot of people are struggling right now where they're stuck inside and there's a lot of uncertainty. And that is an area of support where a celebrity who has such a big voice and platform can have people relate to her. And also, how big was it that she went out and said that on Miley Cyrus's Instagram live show?
Yeah, so it was definitely a really big thing for her to do, especially because it was the first time she's actually gone out and spoken out about her mental health disorders and her bipolar disorder. And Miley's show was aimed at providing advice on staying positive during the pandemic. And like I said before, Selena reiterated over and over again that this is a really, really crucial time to take care of yourself and take care of your mental health and check in on other people. And I think that's a big part of why Selena decided to do this on Miley's show during this time, because I think she really wanted to take her own experiences and use them to help other people who may be going through similar situations.
Were they both Disney stars is that a thing?
No, yeah, they were both. I'm right, Mia. They were both Disney stars
Yeah.
at the same time. I think that's where
Yeah.
they even met. Honestly, I know a lot of, like Selena Gomez, Demi Lovato, Miley Cyrus. They were all in that generation
Yeah.
of Disney stars.
Yeah, I think Miley Cyrus and Selena actually hadn't talked in a while prior to this. They had lost connection after they both left Disney Channel. So this is one of the first times that they had come together to talk since then.
Okay, wow. So that's actually a really powerful thing. Yeah, I think it's great that, they're celebrities especially reaching out to fans right now. I know that this is just a crazy time, honestly. There's no other way to put it.
I know.
But yeah, is there anything advice, Selena maybe gave to those who are struggling? What else maybe was there that you could tell us?
I think one of the most important things one of the things that she placed the most emphasis on during her interview with Miley was, if you are struggling or if you do know someone who's struggling, it's so important to reach out to people, whether it's your family, your friends, people you are with, people you're not with, that you can call over FaceTime or Skype. It's just really important to be talking to other people and getting these feelings out and expressing them and not keeping them bottled up, because this is such a crucial time for your mental health, and it's so, so important to be taking care of yourself and the people around you.
I guess last thing for me is that you mentioned that these two hadn't really talked in a while or connected, but during this pandemic, it feels like a lot of people are coming together, and this is great to see that they are doing so, especially with the good cause.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure why they hadn't talked prior to this. I know there was some buzz about there being some drama between them and a Jonas brother that they had previously dated when they both worked for Disney, but I think they put all of that behind them to come together and talk about really important things during this pandemic, obviously, like a lot of celebrities have been doing, like you mentioned.
Mia, thank you so much on Selena Gomez and her opening up on her bipolar disorder. We will certainly keep that on track. I mean, what else can we do, right? We're going to sit at home and keep watching Miley Cyrus's Instagram live. And one thing we can't do right now is watch live sports. So we will have Mason Hordisky explain what's going on in that world. We'll be back soon.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day, I found out I have something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Welcome back to the Unpeeled podcast. Mason Hordisky joins us, our sports reporter all year long. Mason, welcome to our audio edition of Unpeeled.
What's going on, Sacchi? I know this is an audio edition of our kind of episode right now, but I just wanted to do a quick moment of silence for the XFL. Officially ended today. Very sad. So quick moment of silence.
Rest in peace, XFL.
Okay, I wanted to see who would break that. Thank you.
Yeah, we can start with the XFL, Mason. They, as of about an hour ago, they laid off all of their staff. They're done for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and to be 100% honest with you, I'm kind of surprised by that. I mean, by no way, shape, or form was this ever going to be a league that was going to compete with the NFL, but that was really never the goal of it. It was just to be, a league where during the offseason you could still watch some football, and I think they accomplished that in a much more successful way than the AAF the year before. I was kind of surprised to see it happen. I knew the ratings were going down towards the end of the year, but nonetheless, I thought it was an okay league that still had some legs and could get past that first season mark. I guess not, though.
Guess not. But so, Mason, tell us a little bit more about this Dana White story. I'm not big into UFC sports, but I've heard it's a pretty big story. So why don't you fill us in, especially for those of us who have no idea what's going on?
Well, just like pretty much everything in sports right now, it seems everything is just changing, not even by the day anymore, not even by the hour, by the minute. I mean, I was fully prepared as of yesterday to come into this episode and be talking about how UFC 249 was going to be underway this weekend. It was going to be awesome to finally have some sort of sports back, some sort of normalcy, even though that they were going to do it in front of no people. And then as of yesterday, that's out the window. It turns out that it wasn't Dana White who canceled it. It wasn't the state of California who canceled it. At the end of the day, I guess the mouse holds all the power, as Disney was the one that ended up shutting it down and talking to ESPN executives to make sure that fight would not happen. And again, I think this is kind of just a sign of we are really not that close to being able to get sports back right now. I know Dana White has been at the forefront of trying to make sure that the UFC probably will be that first sport to come back. He's done everything in his power of looking at reservations to hold UFC fights. He bought a private island with the idea of buying it. You're desperate to bring fights back when you basically want to recreate a real-life Mortal Kombat situation. So as far as with the UFC coming back goes, they're suspended indefinitely right now. There's really no timetable for when they're going to come back, much like every American sport right now. It really had a lot of promise. It got a lot of sports fans like me excited to maybe have some sort of normalcy come back. But as of yesterday, that's kind of out the window, just like everybody else right now.
Yeah, Mason, and you talked about the private island idea. Even the sports that are trying to come back, like baseball, who didn't start on time, and the NBA, whose season got suspended, 65, 70 games into an 80-plus game year, the ideas they have are that MLB, let's start with them. They want to try to play in Arizona in one or two different stadiums, and all the players live in a hotel. But, it has some promise. The World Health Organization upheld, that they had some support for the idea to play out there in Arizona where the cases aren't very bad and keep everyone quarantined to strictly just the hotel and then to the stadiums. But even that has some hurdles and some roadblocks. This is just very hard to get underway. And even then, with all those parameters, the baseball season would still only start in late May.
Yeah, and I think that's the big problem for a lot of leagues right now is the fact that all these are good ideas on paper. Once they go into execution, I think that's when you're going to see even more roadblocks than you even see in the initial process right now. So let's talk about the MLB. They do want to go to Arizona. They want to try and get the season started. They want basically players to live there sequestered for about 4 months. And again, that's a nice idea to bring baseball back. But are you really going to enjoy watching baseball like that with no fans in the crowd, with guys sitting in the dugout 6 feet apart? That's not baseball. That's not what we're trying to get back here. I think a lot of people, as greedy as they want sports to come back, and trust me, I'm one of those people. I really want to have sports back more than anybody. I'm a sports reporter, for crying out loud. At the end of the day, we have to be patient here because these are good ideas on paper at the very best. Baseball needs to be baseball. It can't just be a quasi version of it. And I think that's the same for a lot of sports out there. I know Jay Williams came out the other day and said that the NBA playoff should be played on a cruise ship. No. I don't know about you guys, but when I think sanitation, I think cruise ships. Said no one ever.
Yeah, definitely not.
We have to really be careful that we're not treating athletes just like gladiators or pieces of meat out there just to go out there and basically give us entertainment so we can kind of get through this coronavirus pandemic right now. They're people too. Granted, very athletic, very wealthy people, but people nonetheless. And I think that's something that needs to be considered going forward with how we're going to bring these leagues back. If you're not going to bring a league back without the closest sense of normalcy you can possibly get, then I don't know if it's 100% worth it.
It's a great way to end it. Stay patient because who knows when sports will come back. Mason Hordisky, the sports reporter. You have Babe Ruth. I see Alex Rodriguez. Sports behind you.
Jeter diving into the stands.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Babe Ruth, the fat guy who hit a lot of home runs against really good car salesmen back in the 30s. He was pretty good.
Mason, thank you for joining us. Right now, a lot of us, especially me, are stuck at home and we're watching movies. You know, what else is there to do because of this coronavirus pandemic? But while we're all watching these films at home, nobody's watching anything on the big screen. And that's because nearly all of America's 40,000 movie screens are closed for the foreseeable future. And it's really hitting some companies super hard. So here to break down what social distancing measures mean for theaters is Unpeeled industry reporter, Sam Leibowitz.
Thanks for having
me.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
How are you doing? You staying safe out there?
Doing all that I can, you know, haven't really left the house much, so getting a little crazy. Been watching a lot of movies myself though.
Growing the beard too, I see.
I have not shaved or trimmed in a while. Yeah, we're getting a little caveman-ish over here.
Oh my goodness. Well, good thing you're practicing social distancing, but so let's get started and dive right in. What kind of impact is this pandemic having on these movie theaters? You know, it's like a ghost town, at least in my hometown. I'm sure it is by you guys as well.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, most movies that were coming out over the next couple months have been pushed back, like Black Widow, like the new Fast and the Furious movies. So basically all theaters kind of had to shut their doors because there were not going to be any movies for them to play. And kind of in regards to that, also a lot of the theaters were going to close anyways to adhere to these social distancing practices. You know, you can't really be in a packed theater when, you know, you don't want to be around that many people during a pandemic.
And Sam, I know every theater is probably having a hard time, of course, with just flat out no income, but is there any one that's really being hit the hardest?
Well, the one that's been in the news the most is AMC Theaters because they really look like they've been in a lot of trouble. This is probably the worst timing for them to not be able to have income coming in because they already lost about $150 million last year, and they're about, get this, $5 billion in debt going into this crisis, which is a lot. I think you guys can attest to that. So without moviegoers buying tickets and overpriced popcorn and stuff, there's no money coming in for them to pay off this debt or to make up the profits that they lost last year. They already furloughed about 25,000 workers, and they announced earlier this month that they would stop paying rent at their locations. So basically things are looking really bleak for AMC.
Wow, that's insane. That's actually crazy considering a new AMC Theaters actually just opened up around the corner from my house about a month ago, right before everything with coronavirus happened. So that's kind of crazy. But so obviously they're having a hard time right now. Is there any way you think that they're going to recover for this, or is this kind of the beginning of the end for AMC Theaters?
Well, they're not giving up hope just quite yet. The company's still given the whole spiel about expecting to reopen by mid-June, which seems really optimistic. However, they did hire a law firm with the goal of restructuring some of their debt, but some people are looking at these lawyers that they hired as a possible ominous sign that they might be declaring bankruptcy soon. And if they do file for Chapter 11, that doesn't necessarily mean you'll never be going into an AMC theater ever again. Because if they declare for bankruptcy, what would probably happen is they'd be declared a quote-unquote critical vendor, which is like legal speak for a business that is granted permission to stay open because it provides a good or a service that people need and can't really get elsewhere. So in a lot of ways, declaring bankruptcy could actually be the smartest course of action. A lot of people in the industry are recommending that they do that. So there would be casualties in the process. People would lose a lot of jobs. And AMC has a chain of 200 lower price theaters called classic theaters that are like $1 tickets that might get cut because they don't really make a whole lot of revenue for the chain. But basically, if they do declare bankruptcy, I think that AMC isn't quite done yet.
Well, Sam, that's good news. I mean, it's crazy to hear that filing for bankruptcy might be the best move, but we've heard crazier things during this pandemic. Now, what about walk-in theaters as a whole? I feel like they were already going on the decline a little bit because of the rise of streaming services even before we knew what coronavirus was. And now because of this, where do you think when this is all over, they will be after it ends?
I don't necessarily think that this is a death sentence on the industry. I think that you're still going to get a lot of people going to theaters to see things like when Black Widow does come out. Now it's in November. They pushed their date back. I think definitely a lot of people are going to go and see that movie just because it was so close to releasing. And there was a lot of hype for it because it is a Marvel movie. People are always going to go and see those kind of movies, the superhero movies, the big budget movies. But it also kind of depends on how exactly they're going to approach the pandemic, how companies are going to be pushing out content. There's been rumors that Disney might release one of their movies, New Mutants, which is a superhero movie. It's an X-Men movie, which has been in production for a long, long time. That was also very close to finally coming out, and there have been thoughts that they might push that out on Disney Plus. So I think what we're going to see with the actual cinema industry and going to movie theaters has a lot to do with how long this pandemic lasts and how content companies, how content producers are going to deal with pushing that content out during it.
Sam, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you and your family are staying safe, practice your social distancing, and just, we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Well, that's the time that we are allowed here on the Unpeeled podcast. Thank you so much to all of our reporters for joining us virtually and sharing their great thoughts. I hope you all enjoyed listening. And for that, I'm Chris Sacchi.
And I'm Meagan Reynolds. And don't forget to follow us on all of our social media channels where we'll be doing webisodes and keeping you up to date on everything new in entertainment news. Stay safe, Unpeelers.